Hello, and thank you for joining me in the class today. So today is going to be quite an interesting class. We're going to do something completely different because I have done absolutely zero or as little preparation work as what I possibly can. You know, if you follow my normal classes, you'll know I usually start off with all the drawing work and everything transferred onto the canvas, and beforehand I'll give you your template which you can use to transfer, and the reference photo which you can draw by hand if you wanted to. I wanted to give you an idea of the whole process. So my thinking as I go along, so that you can see how I progress from nothing through to the final project. So what we're going to do is we're going to work in little hour bursts. So we're going to work for an hour now, and obviously we're never going to get this painting finished. You'll see it's quite an advanced one. If you haven't downloaded it, the link is in the description below. The reference photo, it's a picture of Pixabay. So it's quite advanced and quite involved artwork. So we won't get it finished now. So what will happen is same time next week, we'll come back and we'll work for another hour, and we'll continue like this until this artwork is finished. So it's going to be great fun and give you something to look out for near the end of the week. Alrighty. So I think the first thing we should do now is let's go and take a look at the picture itself, and I'll show you what I've got in mind. Okay, so this is the picture that I discovered on Pixabay. And why it caught my attention was I've got a little spot in my dining room, a little spot of empty wall which needs to be filled. So ironically, this little spot is in between a corner and a window. So it's just a little upright piece. So the canvas that I've got is this guy over here, which is a 15 by 30 inch or a 38 by 76 centimeter canvas. So he's going to hang vertically. So needless to say, this picture over here isn't going to do the trick because he's way too broad. But what caught my attention was the 3 spoons on the left. They were tied together. They looked like just the ideal candidate for that spot. So it's got a foodie theme to it, and it's a long shape. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to do the 3 spoons, and the 2 on the left are going to be cut away, and they'll be cropped out to look pretty much like that kind of a thing. And then when we'll paint, you'll see the 2 little pieces of spoon that are left on the right hand side. We'll just dump them and just make those piles of spices. So I'm sure it's going to make a really pretty painting, and I think we'll put in a reasonable amount of detail into it. So it's a lot of work ahead of us, but it's going to be great fun. So I'm now working on that size canvas. So what I want you to do is work with, but you don't need to use the same size canvas. By all means, you've got this full reference photo. So by all means, draw yourself out on your canvas as we go along, something similar that has got the same how would I put it, the same ingredients in the artwork as what mine has, so that when I'm painting, for example, the peppercorns, you've also got peppercorns in yours to paint with. So even though it's not on the same position on your canvas, it's in your scene. So this is your opportunity. So if you haven't got the same size canvas as me, to go ahead and be creative and create your own little unique scene from this Pixabay photograph. Right, so then I just want to show you what I've got packed out when I'm doing something like this. All right, so over here, I've got some paper, proportional divider, pen and pencil, masking tape, scissors, some scotch tape, or any regular sellotape would do, a ruler. I've got my clear cover, and this here is dressmaker's carbon paper, which I use for transferring. So as we go along, if we need the stuff, we'll use it. If we don't need it, we won't use it. I've got a paper towel, a roll of kitchen paper towel. And there's my canvas. So what I have done as well, I've printed out the picture onto a paper. I haven't bothered printing it out in color because I just want to use that as then at least I've got a hard copy to stand here and when I'm doing the drawing work to hold in my hand. Then I don't have to keep looking at the screen. And that way I've got the image that I'm transferring on the same angle as the image that I'm drawing, as opposed to if I had to look on the screen, it would be at right angles to the canvas. So that messes around with your perspective and stuff like that. So that's why I've printed that out, and that's why also beforehand told you to print out for yourself as well. Okay, let's take a look. So over here, I've got terps and my medium, my brushes and my paints, and at the back here you can't really see it. There's some really thick books, which you'll see what we use for later, and then just a old rag for drying off your brushes after you've washed it, and that's pretty much all I've got. And obviously my palette. My palette is a tile. So I've packed all that out. So the first step in a process like this is to plan out your artwork onto the canvas. So obviously I have not decided what size canvas I need. So now I need to plot out the picture on the canvas of what I'm going to draw. So I find that you can use, say, a watercolor pencil like this to do your drawing work, and then you just use a rag that you've wet with water to erase any mistakes. And that way you can do all your drawing work and be able to erase without leaving a mark. So that's one way of doing it. If you do it that way, because you've rubbed out with water and you're using oil paints, oil and water don't mix, so then you do just need to leave your canvas to dry before you actually start painting. So what I will usually do, I'll zap it with a hairdryer just to get rid of all that little bit of moisture that's left on the canvas. My favorite way of doing it, and that's the way we're going to do it today, is I'm going to recreate the size of my canvas using paper, and then I'll draw all my do all my scratching out and drawing work on the paper. That way I don't care how dirty it looks, and I can use a regular pencil, and then once I'm done, then I'll take that and I'll lay it back over the canvas and we'll transfer it. And that way you've got an absolutely immaculately clean canvas to start off your artwork with, which is great. Then you know by the time your artwork is finished, there's no little lines and things that are shining through that are just construction lines and stuff. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so I'm going to just take, I've got regular photocopy paper. So for me it's an A4. And I'll just lay them down on top of the canvas like this, and just slightly overlap them. And you just take a look and see how can you pack these papers most efficiently. I think they're like that, so let's tape them together. So guys, as I go along, if you've got any questions, I'm watching the chat box as we go, so feel free to fire away with questions. And if you're painting along, let me know. If you're not, well, make yourself a coffee and just enjoy the show. Alrighty, so that's most of that done. So along there, I've got a really skinny strip, which is less than half the page. So I think I'm even going to just fold this in half, and then I'll just tear it. Let's see how many of those we need. 1, 2. So I'll keep that, the rib piece on the inside, so we got a nice outside. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that should give us enough for covering there. So you see I'm lining it up with the edges of the canvas. Alrighty. So now what I'll do, because I've got all this tape on here, I'm going to flip him over, and then I'm going to draw on this side. So now I can take my canvas away, and I'll put it one side. Don't need him anymore for now. Alrighty, so we're going to pop that guy down over there and draw out something like that. And this is where something like a proportional divider can help you quite a bit, because I've got that width and that there. So I need to just get a feel for how wide this guy is versus how tall he is. So I've got that. I'll turn him around. Let's go 1. Just less than 2. So that's going to give me a good feel for sort of a bounding box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a bounding box like there, just touching the outsides, and then we'll fit everything in from there. So if I do something like that, let's tighten him up. So now I've got a nice amount of space over here and over there. Just some breathing room around the side. So I can mark that on my pencil. So I'm happy is that wide. So now I can just use a ruler and give myself a rough little line. You don't need to use a ruler. You could even just judge it by hand. Like that. And now we need to mark off roughly 2. So I'm going to go take this, and I'm just going to make him a little bit narrower, so that if I do 2 of these, then it will make up for that little bit of extra that's missing. So if I do that and put this guy now in the center, which seems to be more or less there. So let's check it. So I've got about 4 fingers on that side. There. Just over 4 fingers. So if I move him up a little bit, just more than 4 fingers that side, and just more than 4 fingers on that side. Move it up a little bit more. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Okay, so now we've got ourselves like a bounding box. That's the outside of where our spoons are going to, or the inside. Our spoons will fit on the inside of that. Does that make sense? And what I'll often do as well, I'll even take this, and I'll draw that bounding box onto the print as well, like that. And I'll tell you now in a few seconds. I'm going to tell you why. This way, now that I've got my bounding box over here, I can now start judging things. For example, I can judge from there to there. Where does this touch the outside edge? And you can now even use your proportional divider if you wanted to, and you can actually measure it. So let's do that. That's one distance. So where that outside edge touches the bounding box, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 and a bit, 4.5. So if I break this guy up quickly into 4.5, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit, so it's a bit too thick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. There we go. So there, at that point over there is where the spoon is going to touch there. And I can make as many of these marks as what I want to by using that method. I don't think we're going to do that today, but it works really great if you're doing something really, really complex. What I think we're going to do today, we're just going to, because we'll draw like a center line, and then from there we'll just judge our spoons. So what we will do though is just take, say, that length over there versus that width. So let's measure, say, the width, which is that wide. Then I'll go there, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5. So you may as well just make it 5. So if I take, for example, let's put I'm going to overlay the reference photo here. And I think I'm going to just rotate him. I think for now we'll pop him over there, and then we'll draw the spoon with the peppercorns for a start. We'll do that. So I'll just take a ruler and say, all right, I want that spoon to lie maybe at an angle something like that. And if it's not the same as the picture, it doesn't really matter, does it? And then from here, you're going to use this center line as your symmetry point. Because let's face it, the left and the right-hand side of the spoons are identical, right? So we've got it broader over here, and we've got it narrow over here, and then we've got the main spoon part as well. So now we know that we've got 5 of these widths running along here. So let's divide this guy up into 5. And he's going to end somewhere along there. He's not quite at that tip of the bounding box. He's got to end somewhere over there. And he does go all the way to the tip of that bounding box over there. So from there to there's my length. I might as well just extend that line there for you quickly. Okay, so I'm just choosing any width over here, and you can use a ruler to do it as well. Let me show you how I do it with a ruler if you don't have a proportional divider. So you don't have to panic not having one. So I'll just do that and say, let's say 3 inches or 7 centimeters, or just pick any length, any random length. You go there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a bit. So still a little bit too little, so now add an extra, say, 1/4 inch. One, 2, 3, 4. That's nearly there. Add another 1/4 inch. So it's about 3.5 inches then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just a little bit over 5. So that seems perfect. So now I haven't moved my finger there. Notice that. So now I've got that sort of length over there. So it's better. I've got 3.5 inches. So that's 1.5 gives me to the center of the 3 plus another 1/4. So there we go. So it's 1 3/4 inches is the center of this little measurement of mine. So there we go. That's how broad my spoon is going to be at the top. Bonnie's asking why not use a graph and draw it that way. Absolutely, you can use a graph. You can use the grid method. I'm just showing you different methods. Like today, this thing is quite simple, and it's not an intricate picture. So we can just draw him by hand. Okay, so now I can measure now as well how long down that, how much of the entire length it is. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's about 1/3. So let's take this guy and breaking him up into 1/3. 1, 2. That's more or less 1/3 there. Like that. So look here, I've got myself now a square. Let me draw him a bit darker for you so that you can see. So there you go. There's my square. So I know the spoon part of the spoon needs to fit in there. And from there, all I'm going to do is just, it seems to be pretty much an oval. So to draw an oval, I'll split this guy in half again, like that. Take that around, and I'm going to try and get each of these quarters of this box looking the same, and that'll give me a perfect oval. And if you don't get this 100%, as you paint, you'll be able to see now and do all sorts of little fine tunings. Okay, so all I'm looking at now is just to try and get these four quarters looking the same. I think that's close enough. Okay, what do you think? I think that's close enough. All right, so from here, he just sort of curls out, and we'll judge him, say, that wide. So again, I'm looking for symmetry, so I'm checking that distance versus that distance. Like that, and then here at the back, I'm going to also just, let's say, double up that width over there. So I'll just judge two little marks on that side, because what we need to do now from there to there is draw a line. So I'll just draw a light line for now in case I need to erase it. Like that. And now we can just round this back off. So to make yourself a rounding, you can again just draw yourself a square over here, like this. Like that. Split that square in half. And then it's easier to judge that rounding from there to there, like that. Okay, 1 spoon's order. Okay, so for the next spoon, let's maybe pop the reference photo in that corner. So now we're going to do the one with the salt. So he seems to be roughly the same dimensions. The only difference on him is the back end. He's broader on the back and a little bit more ornate and stuff. But I think our dimensions are going to be roughly the same. So the first thing I'm going to do over here is I'm going to just get a feel for how far away from the side. He's not quite on the edge. He's probably around there. And then he ends around there. So that's our furthest point for this guy. In that little corner. Oopsie, sorry, you can't see that. So let me dump that for a second. This furthest bounding corner over there. So that's as far as that spoon goes inside our box that we've drawn. So that there is right up on the edge, and he's not on the. Let's see, he's roughly 1, 2. I would say is about a third of the way. So if I do that and I break this guy up into 3, so the tip of the spoon seems to end over there. So our spoon is lying roughly in at that angle over there. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line. See what's nice. Now, because I'm working on the paper, I'm drawing that line straight over the spoon. I don't care. As long as I can keep my wits about me when I'm transferring, I'm A for away. Okay, so let's draw a similar box over there. So that's the tip that's touching. Okay, I think we can put our reference photo back down there again now. And we had 3.5 inches, so I'm going to put it on 1 1/4. Mark it 3.5 that side to get this side and that side equal. And we had this thing at about a third of the way down, eh? So let's quickly break this length up into 3. So I'll just quickly do it. 1, 2, Yeah, that seems to be roughly there. So I got that. And you can mark that same 1 1/4, 3 1/2. Draw your box. Okay, let's split him in half that way. And now we can just complete our quarters. Can you see how easy it is to draw an oval when you've got a box that you've split up into 4 pieces? Like that. Then he comes out this way. Comes out that way. The same distance on each side of that line to keep your symmetry. Like that. Okay, so here at the back, we're going to need to be a little bit more creative. Because it's a little bit more ornate. So let's see. That furthest point is a little bit of a small rounding. It seems almost like a bit of a circle. So let's extend that line over there. And we know this broadest point is around there. So I've got that distance away from the line. So I'm going to replicate that distance away from the line over there. And feel free to measure it, just using a ruler or a proportional divider to get them the same. Okay, so we've got that. And let's make that end around there, just before the end. And that's this little rounding over there that I'm chatting about now. The broadest rounding. So he's got to end around there somewhere. So we'll just extend that. And I'll extend that. And it seems sort of more like an oval, more than a circle. So I'll make a longer box more to form an oval. I'll split that box in half. And then we can complete this. There. And there. So I'm going to draw a full-on, it's like a semicircle there. And then that last little seems to be a bit of a circle. So I'll draw myself a box there again. Square. Split him into quarters. We'll complete that. Yeah, I think that's good enough for that guy. Right, let's complete these outside the long edges. So it goes from there, and it meets up with there. It goes from there, and it meets up with there. So there we go. We've got 2 of our 3 spoons drawn out already. So now it's just that small one. And I'm not going to worry about all these little shapes or anything for now. Let's just get the basics. Okay, so that spoon seems to be lying at this kind of an angle across there like that. And he seems to, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we'll just draw a line somewhere there like that. Okay, so let's give ourselves a little box over here. And this one I think I'm just going to judge this teaspoon. We've got a feel for what we need to do now. So I'm going to form a rectangle over there. Split him in half. And draw myself an oval. Okay, the end of the spoon. So this one is quite ornate. Let me zoom in on that little piece. You can see how ornate that end is over there. So that, I think what we can do is we'll just sort of judge that. So judging something like this and getting symmetry right can be quite difficult. So there is a little trick that you can do. And that's, we do this. We put another little piece of paper on the edge of the line. And I'm going to draw it out on this piece of paper. So it seems to come out over there, and there's another little thing like that. And then from there, he ends up doing all sorts of other, it goes straight to there, and then there's all sorts of little details in there. So now that I've got that, I'll just quickly cut it out. Okay, now I'll put him down. Let me just erase that, what I initially drew. So now I'll put him down there, like that, back on the line. And I'll just follow the edge. And that's how easy it is. Now I'm just going to flip him over. Look what I've done. I've drawn him there. I've just flipped him over here. Pop him back on the line. Make sure he meets there as well. And that's how easy it is to get something intricate like this to be perfectly symmetrical. I mean, to draw it freehand, it will take you for ages. There we go. there's our shape sorted over there. Okay, and then from there we've just got curling out as normal. And that goes out there. And then this guy goes out at exactly the same angle out this side. I think I'll make it a little bit narrower. And then it disappears there behind these other guys. So there we go. That's the hard work done. Because nothing else needs to be really drawn. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go in ahead and just erase the confusing bits, especially over here, so that I know what to draw. So yeah, this spoon is on top. So I'm going to erase all the other lines inside it. Okay, then he's next. So that's fine. Erase all these other lines that are inside that spoon. And then, yeah, all these little construction lines I'm going to erase, because now we also need to do the ornate drawing work. And now you'll also see as you go along, you may find that you can spot one or two little skew lines or whatever that you've drawn. So now's a great time also just to fix them up as you go along. So as you start off with something rough, and then as you go along, you get more and more accurate. Okay, so let's take this guy over here. He's got sort of that, a bit of a rose motif on him. So that seems to run sort of across there like that. And then here on the outside we've got, that's an easy bit, so let's do that. Maybe I can zoom in on that area for you. Okay, so I can see there's some curly bits happening over here on the outside. They end over there, each one in a ball. There's a little ridge over there. And then here's a design. Now you don't need to get these designs identical to what they've got them on their spoon. Because let's face it, nobody's going to see your painting and your reference photo next to each other. So if you've got little differences, that's fine. Seems to be a bit of a roundish thing over there like that. Over here we've got some, I suppose it's leaves or something. So if it's leaves, we'll give it a bit of a leafy effect. So I'm using my artist license here. I'm not going to try and copy that. There's a line going there like that. He sort of just curls around to there. And that does something like that. Okay, let's see. This guy comes down like that. And then he curls in to another little ball. And then he goes up that way again. I must say, the guys that think out these things are quite creative. I wouldn't have thought of making little balls and curly bits and stuff like that if I was designing something like this. So that goes to there, and then there seems to be another little curly bit over there somewhere. All right, so let's take a look. Over here we've got a few leaves. I suppose that's a flowery bit. Fully doing my own thing here now, just roughly copying that. As we go along, that'll all become more and more accurate. Yeah, it seems to be something like that. And then there's something going on over here as well, just a suggestion of something over there. It's probably going to disappear behind the rope that we'll paint over there. But that's fine. It's given us that. And let's do the ornate work on that guy as well. That drawing work over there. Okay, so he seems to have circle and then little flowers. So I'm just going to do that kind of a thing. This is kind of detail that we'll just paint. But it would be nice for us to just know where does it go? Where is it roughly going to go when we are painting? Okay, so then we've got a nice curly bit coming out around there, somewhere like that. Yeah, it seems to go thinner and thinner and disappear on us. There we've got a line running around. Something there like that. Can you see how I'm already deviating from the original? There's little balls over there, circly things. And here we can't really see what's going on. Okay, and over here, this is another curly bit. That. There's another little piece inside it. A few more dots. Yeah, I think that's good enough for that. And the other one seems to be plain. He hasn't got anything funny on him. There's just sort of like a brand name on the end of that one. And that, again, I think is something we could just paint in as we go. All right, so let's zoom out here again and see what else do you think we would need to, draw? Personally, I think that's pretty much it. With that star anise and stuff like that, we'll also just paint it in. It's just a cross and then adding detail. So I think that's it. So what I'm going to do with this guy now is I'm going to transfer him to my canvas. So let's zoom out again. Alrighty, so that's where we're at. So now just have a quick look. I see this guy is a little bit like a spade. It needs to be just a little bit more, a little bit sharper, according to the photo. So I'll just adjust him there quickly. Now's a great time for you to stand back. Even I'd often even just take this picture and I'll stick it up on the wall and have a good look at him and see where do I need to just fine tune. Like this guy, he's a little bit oblong still as well. So let's skinny him up there at the tip. Maybe just broaden him out a little bit more over there. As I'm going along, I'm gradually getting rid of all these construction lines. I don't need them anymore. You don't have to erase them, but it makes things easier when you're transferring. Then you don't have to wander. Okay, so let's narrow this guy a little bit. Like that. And then we broaden him over here a little bit. Okay, so he looks better. Okay, let's get rid of that spade shape on him. He is reasonably accurate, actually. I think what I'll do is I'll just broaden him a little bit more here towards the bottom. Okay, let's check him. Yeah, that looks neater, hey? Alrighty, so let's get our canvas in play here. How's your drawing been going along? I hope it's been going okay. Get our wedges in. I'm just going to put them in by hand for now. Normally I tap them a little bit with just with the end of a screwdriver or so. For now, I'll just pop them in so they don't disappear on me. That's good enough. Okay. So here the background is really dark on this drawing, so you could get away with using pen carbon paper. But what I like using is this. The dressmaker's carbon paper. So you get this at any dressmaking kind of shop, guys that sell buttons and material and so on. What's nice about the dressmaker's carbon paper is it comes in different colors. You see that? Look at that. I can even use white. So if I'm working on a black canvas, I can even use it on a black canvas. So I'll usually choose one that's closest to my to my colors that I'm using over here. So in other words, if I'm doing let's say a landscape, then I'll maybe use the green one. If I'm doing a flower, maybe a rose, I'd end up using the pink one, and so on. So this blue one of mine is a little bit, he's had it, I would have chosen him. But I think I'm going to use I think I'll just use the pink one. Because our background's so dark, it's not really going to matter today. All right, so I'll just take this, and I'll do one spoon at a time. So to make sure that I get this thing correct, I'm going to take some masking tape, and I'm going to stick this guy onto the canvas. So obviously we've made this piece of paper to fit this canvas perfectly. It's exactly the right width. So there's no real place for us to stick the masking tape. So I'll just cut off a half an inch, just a centimeter or two on that edge over there. Cool, so now I know I've cut off that edge. I'll line him up with this edge. That is exactly where he needs to be. But now there's a place for me to take my masking tape and stick him down. So I'm going to pop him underneath, and now you can use a pen or a pencil to transfer. So as I'm transferring, I'm going to do this, and then just quickly check, make sure that my lines are coming out. You don't want to go and do all your transfer work, and then you can't see your lines afterwards. And the famous one for that is because you now can't see where the carbon paper is behind, that you end up transferring all the way along here to realize, but there's no carbon paper behind you in the first place. So you'll see I'm constantly checking to see how far can I go. Another trick I'll also use when I'm transferring like this, because like now I'm transferring using my pencil again, so you can't remember which lines you've done. So then all you do is you've done your construction work with a pencil, then you transfer your lines using a pen. So then you can see the color difference. You instantly know what you've transferred and what you haven't. Okay, one down. Okay, so while I'm at it, I'm going to just do the one spoon, even though my carbon paper is right there by that other spoon's ornate stuff. I'll rather complete the one spoon and then I know he's done. Then I'm not, it also helps you decrease the amount of forgetting to fill in a line you do. Okay, last spoon. Can you see how quickly it does go once you've got all that? The construction work may have taken you a little while, but once you've got it, now I can work really quick. And if I ever need to make any changes and stuff, I've got this template of mine. And it's perfect to here. So I can make a change at any stage of the painting and I can come back and I can put him back down in exactly the correct spot. Exactly the same place that he was when I did this transfer work. Yeah, you see, there we go. I just did it. Didn't move my carbon paper. That's how quickly it happens. Alrighty, let's quickly do the ornate work on here. Nearly done. If you got any questions, now would be a good time to fire away, seeing as we're nearly at time for today. So as I'm drawing here, I am doing a few little adjustments with the accuracy, just to get things a little bit neater as I go along. So already, we already now have things that are looking better than when I did the initial drawing. Right, so that technically should be all the work done on the drawing side, if I didn't make any mistakes. So how do I check to see if I've forgotten something? I'll take out my carbon paper and I'm going to flip this paper up and down like this so that I can, and I'll watch, say for example, just this little area over here. And as I flip him up, I'm looking there. I flip him down, I look over there, and if I do it fast enough, then I can see if I've missed something. So I'll do this. And that way you can also then see if something is maybe not transferred dark enough. And then you can fix that up as well. Like here, I wasn't pressing quite hard enough, so my lines are really, really light. And now they're better. Okay, so I can take this and I'm going to keep this until this whole entire artwork is finished. Because if I need to ever put him back down on the canvas to check something or to make updates or whatever, then I've got it. All right, so there we go. We've got that finished. So the last step that I'm going to do before we stop today is this. I need to mask off all these spoons so that we can paint the background without worrying about whether I'm painting over the spoons, because you can see there's this salt in this one, for example, and so on. And the background is really, really dark. And when I'm painting the background, I also don't want to have to, I don't want to lose my lines. I've done all this hard work drawing the lines, so I don't want to lose that. So what I do is I use what's called clear cover. So it looks like this. It's a roll. You buy it at the stationery store, and you also get it at the hardware store by the kitchen kind of department as well. So it's used for two things. It's basically a transparent sticker, so you can use it for lining drawers, and you can use it for covering books. So that's why you get it at those two different places. So as I peel this back, you can see it's a transparent, clear sticker. So what I do with this gives me the ability to make a mask really, really quick. Now, if you don't have clear cover, then just use masking tape. And alternately, when you're painting your background, you just have to work a lot more carefully to go all the way around your spoons so that you don't get paint in those areas. But this is what I do. I'll get it the one side nice and even, and then as I go along, I work from the inside outwards. And I just smooth it out, get rid of all the bubbles. You can see how easy it is to even just cover the whole canvas like this. So I'll do that. Then once I'm at the end, I'll just cut off the excess. Okay, so we'll smooth him out. And now remember earlier on I showed you that I had two heavy books or some heavy books. So this is the point where you need those heavy books if you're working on a box canvas like I am, because you've got all this give in here, and now we need to cut out all the way around the edges. So to make sure that you don't punch a hole all the way through your canvas, and then you have to throw your canvas away or follow Dennis's video to fix it, I just take some heavy books. You see they're nice and thick, and it's thicker. I've got two books here to make sure that it's thicker than the actual canvas. So I'll put these books down over there, and then I'll put the canvas over that. So look what's happened. There's now no give there. The canvas is resting onto those books. And now, funny enough, you'll be able to apply a little bit more pressure to the canvas without cutting through it. So now I'll just use a really sharp craft knife. And I'm going to run all the way around these edges. So what's really important when you're doing this is make sure that your craft knife is super sharp. Okay, you see there was the end of the book, so I've now moved the whole canvas over so that all this cutting happens on the book. And that way I'm not going to cut through my canvas by accident. And take your time with this step. So obviously if you get this all skew, then you're going to start off with as good as a skew drawing. You see how quick it goes? It's really a pleasure using the clear cover. So if you don't know where to get the clear cover, you can go to you can get it on Amazon. So the link to that would be www.paintbasket.com/go /clear cover. So that's CLEARCOVER, one word, clear cover. And that'll take you to Amazon where you can go and get it. Like I say, I buy mine just at the local dollar store. My dollar store stocks it because the kids are constantly using it to cover their books and so on. So nearly done. Now why I say you must make sure that your blade on your knife is really sharp is that way, because it's so sharp, you don't have to apply much pressure to cut through. If you've got a blunt blade, then you have to apply pressure. So that just increases your chance of zipping a hole through your canvas. Fantastic. Okay, so I should be cut all the way through now, all the way around. No, there's a little piece that I forgot. Okay, hopefully that's everything now. Let's check in. And now you should be able to just peel off the excess. Carefully peel off the excess. That'll leave you with a perfect mask. How long did that take us? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes? Way less time than you would spend trying to paint all the way around this when you're doing your background. Okay, so there we go. So I think we'll call it a day at that. Our canvas is ready to go. So next week we can get to the good stuff. So I think next week what we'll do is we'll be painting the background. Hopefully we should be able to get the background finished. And if we do, then we'll start on the spoons. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. If you have and you want to get painting in the meantime during the week, why don't you head over to our website at onlineartlessons.com. So onlineartlessons.com. No spaces or dashes or anything. Just one long continuous word. There's over 400 more projects like this for you. So I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Cheerio.